It happened a long time ago, 1992, if I remember right. We had just wrapped a picture down in Los Angeles, the kind of film that gets people talking: bright lights, long hours, too many interviews, and not enough silence. Awards were coming, the paper said I'd never been better, and everyone wanted to shake my hand. But somewhere in all that noise, I couldn't hear myself anymore. That night I got in my old truck and started driving north up the Pacific Coast Highway. I've always liked that road, the kind that hugs the ocean like it's afraid to let go. The moon was out, silver light spilling over the cliffs. Every mile I drove, the city faded behind me until it was just me, the sea, and that long stretch of road, whispering things I didn't want to hear. Fame's a funny thing. They tell you it fills you up, but if you stay long enough, it hollows you out. You start performing even when no one's watching. You smile on cue, talk about art, pretend you know what it all means, but deep down, you're tired of being the man everyone thinks you are. I reached Carmel by the sea just before midnight. It was my home by then: quiet streets, old cypress trees, the smell of salt in the air. A small town that doesn't care who you used to be. I poured a drink, left it half full, and sat by the window looking out toward the ocean. The waves were dark, endless, and for the first time in a long time, I felt small. I'd spent a lifetime chasing stories, some I wrote, most I lived through. I'd seen war, fame, loss, and the kind of loneliness that doesn't make headlines, and somewhere along the way I stopped believing in anything I couldn't control. God, heaven, mercy, those were words for other people who hadn't seen the world from the inside out. But that night, something about the silence felt different. It wasn't empty, it was waiting. Like the whole world had paused for me to notice how quiet it could be when you run out of excuses. I remember looking out at the horizon, no stars, just black sky pressing down on black water. And I whispered, half to myself, half to whoever might still be listening, if you're out there, I'm not asking for a miracle, just make me feel something again. The wind outside picked up, carrying the sound of the waves against the rocks. A faint hum filled the room, not music, not electricity, just presence. I leaned back in my chair, heart steady, eyes open. That was the first time in years I'd spoken to him. I didn't know it yet, but that night that silence was his answer. The beginning of the vision that would change everything I thought I knew about faith, about life, and about myself. The next few nights felt the same, heavy, quiet, strange. I'd go to bed, close my eyes, and somewhere between midnight and dawn I'd wake up for no reason. No sound, no dream, just awake, like something was nudging me from the inside. At first I blamed it on the wind. Carmel gets that ocean wind that rattles the windows and makes you feel like the house is breathing. But this was different. This was inside me, a stillness that felt louder than any storm. I'd walk through the house barefoot, the floor cold under my feet. The old grandfather clock in the hall ticked so loud I could feel it in my chest. Outside, the ocean was black glass. The moon hung low, heavy, like it was watching me too. That's when the thoughts started. Not new ones, just the kind I'd kept buried for years. Faces I hadn't seen in decades. Things I'd said, things I'd done. Moments I'd walked away from because it was easier to let time do the apologizing for me. And there it was, that ache in the chest that comes when you finally run out of ways to lie to yourself. It's funny, you can go through wars, divorces, funerals, and never cry. But the moment you face your own emptiness, it breaks you. I remember looking at my reflection in the window, gray hair, tired eyes, the same man everyone thought had it all figured out. And I said, "You're not fooling anyone anymore." I don't know why I said it. Maybe because I'd spent my whole life performing on screen, in interviews, even in my own head. And that night I finally met the audience that never applauds. The truth. The glass of bourbon on the table had gone warm. I took a sip, put it down, and whispered again, "God, if you're real, you picked the wrong man." The words hit harder than I expected. because deep down I knew that was exactly the kind of man he'd picked, one who had everything the world could offer and nothing left to give himself. The air in the room thickened not with fear, but with something I hadn't felt since I was a kid sitting in a small church with my mother before life got complicated. Yeah, it was presence, not outside me, in me. The rain started again, soft, steady, and for a moment it sounded like a heartbeat. I sat there, eyes open, listening. Every mistake I'd ever made lined up in front of me, not to condemn me, but to ask a single question. Are you done running yet? That's when it hit me. All the noise, all the success, all the years of pretending they'd been ways to outrun the silence. But the silence had finally caught up, and it didn't want punishment. It wanted surrender. The clock ticked over to 3, 0 amperes, M. I remember that number because it felt deliberate, like he was keeping time. I didn't pray. I just sat there, staring at the empty chair across from me, half expecting to see someone sitting in it. And maybe I did. Or maybe that was just the beginning of something larger than sight. Either way, I knew this much. Whatever was waiting for me in that silence wasn't here to scare me. It was here to wake me up. I don't know how long I sat there that night. Could have been minutes, could have been hours. Time didn't feel real anymore, just the slow rhythm of the rain and the sound of my own breathing. The house was still, not empty, still, like every corner of the room was holding its breath. Then the light flickered, just once. It wasn't a power surge, and it wasn't lightning. It was softer, like the air itself had changed its mind about being invisible. I remember thinking, if this is a dream, don't wake me yet. The light grew, not blinding, not bright, but alive. It filled the room without casting a shadow. Every object, the chair, the glass, the clock, looked exactly the same and yet completely new, like the world had been washed clean. And that's when I saw him. He wasn't floating or glowing. He wasn't the way artists paint him. He just was. Standing in the middle of that quiet room, the way light stands inside water. I didn't move. Didn't, Dari. Because for the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to be known, not recognized, not watched, known. He didn't say a word, not at first. He looked at me, not through me, not at what I'd done, but into me. And I saw myself the way he did. Every lie, every sin, every hard edge I'd ever used to keep love out. It should have hurt. It didn't. It felt like truth, sharp but merciful. Finally, he spoke. The voice wasn't loud. It was steady, calm, the kind of voice that doesn't come to your ears but through your heart. You've been chasing purpose, he said, while I've been chasing you. I couldn't speak, couldn't look away. My throat tightened, and all the things I'd been holding for years, the pride, the anger, the loneliness, just gave up. He took a step closer, and I swear the air between us shifted, heavier yet easier to breathe. There was no accusation in his face, only patience, the kind that waits forever if it has to. You called it success, he said. I called it searching. Tears came before I even knew they were there, not the kind that burn, but the kind that heal. He reached out, placed a hand on my shoulder, firm, warm, real. I don't remember falling to my knees, but I was there before him, every ounce of pride washed out of me. And in that stillness, I heard one last thing. You've told the world 1,000 stories, Clint. Now live the one I wrote for you. The light grew brighter, not to blind, but to embrace. And just as suddenly as it came, it began to fade. No thunder, no sound, just that same rain outside, steady and soft. When it was gone, I was still on my knees. The clock read 3, 37 amperes. And the room was exactly the same, but I wasn't. After the light faded, I sat there for a long time, hands still trembling, eyes wide open, waiting for the world to move again, but it didn't. Everything stayed still, like the air itself was holding its breath. I thought maybe I'd lost my mind. Maybe it was exhaustion or age catching up to me. But deep down, something told me different. The silence wasn't empty, it was full, thick with meaning, like a room waiting for me to speak first. I remember standing up, pacing across the floor, feeling the wood cold under my bare feet. His words kept echoing inside me. You've been chasing purpose while I've been chasing you. The more I thought about them, the more they sank in. I'd spent my whole life trying to write stories that would last forever, trying to carve my name into something time couldn't erase. But what good is a name if the soul behind it is hollow? That night taught me something I'd forgotten long ago. God doesn't ask for perfection, He asks for honesty. He doesn't need you to shout your faith from rooftops. He needs you to whisper truth in the dark. For years I'd been surrounded by applause, cameras, noise, but none of it ever reached me the way that silence did. It showed me what following Him really means. It's not a march, it's a return. It's waking up every day and saying, all right, I'm here. Teach me how to love again. It's forgiving the people who never said sorry. It's choosing peace when pride wants a fight. It's stopping long enough to see the world isn't broken, it's waiting to be seen with mercy. And mercy, I've learned, is what He left us to keep alive. After that night, I stopped asking Him for things. I just started listening, and when I did, I began to hear Him everywhere. The laughter of a child, the wind brushing through trees, even the silence after a long day when the heart finally quiets. That's where He lives. That's what He meant when He said, follow me. He wasn't asking me to walk a road I didn't know. He was asking me to walk it awake. The days that followed were quieter than any I could remember. The world didn't change. I did. The noise that used to chase me, the headlines, the meetings, the endless proving of myself suddenly didn't have the same hold. I still got up early, still made my coffee, still watched the ocean roll against the rocks, but there was something different in how I saw it. The same sea that used to remind me of how small I was now felt like an old friend, patient, forgiving, constant. I started to notice things. I'd forgotten the smell of salt in the air, the way light bounces off wet sand, the sound of gulls calling in the distance. Every ordinary moment seemed to hum with meaning. Maybe that's what faith really is, not fireworks, not thunder, just the steady realization that nothing around you is ordinary. I began calling people I hadn't spoken to in years. Some of them didn't answer. Some did. The conversations were short, awkward, but honest. I'm sorry turned out to be a harder sentence to say than any line I'd ever delivered on set, but it healed something. Little by little, I started learning how to live in truth, not performance. Following Him didn't make me a saint, it just made me real. I stopped trying to sound right and started trying to be kind. I said less, listened more. I forgave people who'd hurt me, and to my surprise, I started forgiving myself. The anger that used to fuel me toward the world, toward my own reflection, lost its appetite. I began walking every evening through town, saying hello to strangers, smiling back at kids who waved. Carmel is small. Folks notice when you change. Some thought I'd found religion. Maybe I had. But it wasn't about church pews or sermons. It was about peace, the kind that starts small, then grows until it fills everything. I started writing again, not scripts this time, just thoughts. I'd sit by the fireplace, pencil in hand, writing down pieces of what I'd seen, what I'd learned. Most of it never left the page. But that didn't matter. It wasn't for the world anymore. It was between me and the one who found me in the dark. You see, the vision didn't end that night. It became my life. Every sunrise since has felt like a continuation of it, a reminder that grace isn't a moment, it's a way of breathing. I used to think I had to prove I was worth saving. Now I know He already decided that long before I ever said His name. These days, when I walk by the shore and feel the wind against my face, I whisper, still here. And in that quiet, I swear I can feel Him smile. It's been years since that night, but I can still feel it like it just happened. Time has a way of softening things, sanding down the edges of our memories, but not this one. This one stayed sharp, alive, like a light that refuses to go out. I still live here in Carmel, same house by the sea. The wood's older, the paint's worn, but the view hasn't changed. Every evening I sit out on the porch with a cup of coffee that goes cold before I finish it. I watch the sky turn gold, then gray, then black, and I listen to the ocean breathe. The waves come in, the waves go out. Everything keeps moving, even when you don't. I've made peace with that. There was a time when I thought following him meant always moving forward, always doing more, but I've learned that sometimes it means just being still and knowing you're not alone. The years have taken a lot from me, people I loved, strength, time, but they've given me something better, perspective. I see now that grace doesn't erase the past, it redeems it. Every wrong turn, every bad decision, every scar became part of the story. He was writing long before I understood the plot. And that story isn't about fame or failure or even forgiveness. It's about love. Simple, stubborn, everlasting love. The kind that finds you even when you stop looking. I don't talk much about the vision anymore, not because I doubt it, but because I don't need to prove it. You don't have to convince anyone about the sun once they've felt its warmth. The proof is in the peace. People still ask me what it was like seeing him. I tell them it wasn't seeing that changed me, it was being seen. To be known fully and still loved completely, that's the miracle. Everything else is just detail. Sometimes at night I'll wake at 3 again, not often, just enough to remember. I don't fight it anymore. I just sit up, breathe, and whisper, I'm still listening. And in that silence, the same calm fills the room, the same presence, steady as the tide. Maybe that's what heaven feels like. Not trumpets or clouds, but peace that stays. I used to chase answers. Now I just try to live the question. I used to chase light. Now I carry a small piece of it with me wherever I go. When I'm gone, I don't want people to remember the movies or the awards. I want them to remember that I finally learned how to be quiet long enough to hear God speak, that I followed the voice that called me back home. So when the day comes, when the credits roll and the screen fades to black, I hope he'll meet me the same way he did that night, without judgment, without thunder, just that calm, steady light. And I'll say, I made it, Lord, and maybe he'll smile and say, you finally followed.